Welcome. I'm here today with Dr. Roger Hickman, Head of Musicology at California State University, Long Beach. Welcome. Dr. Hickman, may I call you Roger?
Please do, and it's a pleasure to talk with you. Thank you.
Thank you so much. We're here today to talk about your book, Reel Music, that's R-E-E-L, Reel Music, Exploring 100 Years of Film Music. Please share with us, if you will, what was the driving force behind writing this book?
I came here to Cal State Long Beach 25 years ago, and they immediately hired me to teach humanities courses, and the idea was we compare music to other disciplines, art, visual arts, and dramatic arts, and see how they coordinated, either had the same influences or actually worked together. So poetry and poetry and music make songs, for example. I found the humanities textbooks went more and more. They had little tiny sections on film, and they got larger and larger, and I got more fascinated, and the students really liked those film sections when we got to the 20th century. And of course, my role was to explain the music in those films, say what's going on. So we started something like Seventh Seal. I think that's the first film I taught in the classes. And say, this is what the music's doing. Listen, this is a quotation from the Dies Irae of the Chat of the Dead. And that just got too fascinating. Then something happened, which is I shouldn't be telling you, but as long as you don't tell anybody else. The chairman comes up to me and whispers, says, our music appreciation classes are losing students. The art appreciation courses are killing us. A little departmental jealousy there. So he said, why don't you develop another course that kids will like? So I flippantly said on the spot, well, why don't we do a film music class? Well, everybody likes to watch movies.
But your background is in classical music, is in that regular music appreciation area.
Yeah, and film music was looked down upon. In my background, it was not considered to be a legitimate field to study. I couldn't mention at graduate school that I want to study film music because it just wouldn't be done. So I started studying it to do something in class, and of course, just suddenly, wow, this is amazing stuff. These composers are so good at what they do, and they do it so quickly. And it's also a fascinating way to teach students about music because they'll pay more attention. There's some meaning behind the music. They can see what it's doing, and so you can discuss things such as instrumentation, what's happening, tempo, dynamics, and it's more meaningful to them. So I started working on some handouts. Start with handouts, then we got a whole booklet together, and then by that time I decided, well, let's see if I can get to sell this. And Norton came up and said they'd buy it for us. So it worked out really well.
So you took that kind of surprise that you discovered when you looked into film music, put it into the book, and having read the book, this highly regarded textbook, and congratulations for that, by the way. It is a very easy read in the sense that you lay it out so clearly, and I can feel the joy that you find in film music in the book.
Oh, thank you very much for that. And it's nice that times are changing, so now in my field of musicology, film music is accepted, and one of a new area, and it's nice that when I have one of the first books on it.
Very nice.
That comes out well. It took a long time because I had to learn all film, and I can remember picking up my first film history book and going, oh my gosh, look at all these names of films. How am I supposed to retain any of this? But I wanted to go into it and try to get rid of my prejudices. My natural prejudice as a musicologist says if the score sounds like Wagner, it's good. If it doesn't sound like Wagner, then it's not as good. But I can't do that. So I went by starting with Academy Award winners, the AFI top 100 films, what are rated as top films, and just saying, I'm going to listen to that music for those films, and how does that music work, and which ones are successful scores. So later I told some colleagues that I'm going to include a film like The Graduate. I got some, what? You can't include The Graduate. That's not real music. I said, wait a minute, it's not real music. It's great music. It works so well. It makes that film. And so I put it in there, and I think people have come around to the fact that there's now all kinds of different types of music you can use, and you don't have to just do the Wagnerian full symphony sound.
You mentioned Wagner. He really kind of was the genesis for film music, wasn't he? His music, in a way?
In a way, yes. And of course, my book starts with Wagner. And he's very important. He was a theater person. Many people just think of him as an opera composer, but he ran a theater. He's the first person ever to dim all the lights for a show, whereas in the past they would lower the lights, but you still have lights on. But he wanted you to forget that there was an audience there. He wanted you to focus on what was on stage magically. that you were being ported someplace else. And that was new stuff for him. So there is actually a book out called From Wagner to Murnau, showing how Wagner's development led directly to film directors. It's fascinating studies. But we've learned, and more recent studies, even since I've written the book, we're studying how there are other sources for film music that we haven't talked about, including ballet.
Yes.
It said a lot of cliches that were picked up in film, and something that's little talked about is melodrama from the 19th century. And
how do you define that?
Melodrama would be a drama that usually had good guy, bad guy, and female distress. There'd be a big climactic scene that needs savior. The good guy would win, beat the bad guy, and get the girl. And there'd be a lot of music played during the course of it. So the orchestra's playing a little scary music here, a little romantic music there. And these became the cliches that silent film picked up immediately from the theater, and they put into silent films. And of course, that got transplanted a lot of those same type of excerpts into the sound era.
You mentioned ballet.
Yes.
You have been a conductor.
Yes.
And so now, what's your principal instrument that you play?
I started as a violinist. Wow. Yeah. Well, they came 4th grade and said, you know, you get to get out of class if you play a musical instrument. Now, do you want to play violin this year or play flute next year? And what am I going to think? I want to get out of class this year. So I took up the violin and got in the orchestra. I was the only boy in the violin section.
Way to get a date.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. But my director immediately made me first chair, which I thought, boy, I must be good. But now I think it's just a matter of sexism way back in those days. But the heck. And I practiced so I could keep that first chair and be proud. And so I loved playing violin and viola later on. And so that stepped me, that's why I got to college to be a violin major. But there's that point when I'm practicing 4 hours a day that you think, maybe I don't really want to do this for a living.
Mm-hmm.
And that's when I went into music history, which is fascinating.
And conducting. Where have you conducted?
Well, the conducting was not an intention of mine. It's like one of those Broadway shows that you watch. I'm playing in a professional orchestra, and the conductor gets sick, and he needed somebody on a day's notice to go rehearse and lead the orchestra. And I must have done pretty good because they hired me as the permanent conductor. And so the next thing I know, I'm in the Orange County Performing Arts Center. I'm working with Bob Hope, who's coming on stage, and concert master of the LA Phil, and I go, how did this happen? So it was just amazing to me how quickly that developed. And the very next year, the conductor at Cal State Long Beach left, so I started conducting the Cal State Long Beach, and had a nice time conducting as a reluctant conductor. Now, I didn't want that as my field, but it was interesting enough and to get me going. And then I started conducting Long Beach Ballet. That's where we connected the ballet connection.
And that's a separate kind of thing,
Yeah,
isn't it?
Fully professional orchestra. We do Nutcracker every Christmas. You're familiar with Nutcracker?
I've seen so many and been in so many.
But I tell you, it's in my blood, so I don't even think about Nutcracker. But somewhere in August, something clicks, and I start thinking Nutcracker, Nutcracker, and then it grows, and it's very passionate December, full of Nutcracker, and I love every performance and every minute of the performances.
Would you like to score a film?
I've always not wanted to do that, but sometimes I'm thinking maybe it's not as hard as it looks. I'm sorry. Some things that have come out recently, I say, I can do that, and I can come up with that idea. So maybe I might try that at some point.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, but I'm going back to the days when you had to write theory assignments and had to do everything part writing rules, and how long it took me to get 8 measures out and thinking of a full film score. But there's a lot of shortcuts you can take now.
When your students come into your class, they've all seen movies. Do you find that perhaps because of the technological availability of music, do you think maybe this generation is a little more sensitive to film music, or are they manipulated without knowing it?
Yeah, much more sensitive. And we're coming from, I'll have a little story here. I was on an airplane, and it was the first time they'd ever started showing movies, at least I was aware, on an airplane, and they started showing Laura. And I'm going, oh, this is fabulous. What a fascinating movie.
David Raxon.
Right. And they get to the point, the dramatic turn point where Laura, who's supposed to be murdered, suddenly walks in the door. Wow. And then they turn it off and say, sorry, we don't have enough time to finish the movie. And so I tell the students, I had to wait 25 years to see the rest of that movie. And because I never forgot about it. I've always wanted to know how that film ended, but there was no place to go. Where do you find this? There's just TV sets. And you had to wait for a TV channel to show that movie or be aware that it was being shown. So it wasn't until Blockbuster came out and we could rent videos, and I finally, I got to finish this movie. And then I found it was a great score.
It is a beautiful score. Oh, what a composer.
But so what the advantage we have with technology, with TV to begin with, just the fact that we can watch movies on TV, which in a way is very important to film because it creates a classical body of literature. Whereas if you only know what's at the theater is being released, you don't have a chance to develop this is the classical canon of great films because you don't get a chance to see Casablanca. But once you get to TV and they start showing Gunga Din, one of my favorites, King Kong, and as a kid I just loved these movies. But then I grew up with those movies, so that was a step. And then once you get the videos, DVDs, and availability of CDs, students are so much more sophisticated as movies and music than they used to be.
Are you able to surprise them in any way in the middle of your course, in the middle of your book?
I'm always going to be able to find a movie they haven't seen and some surprising music, yeah. So I do my best.
Is the good musical score emotionally manipulative, subliminal? How would you describe what it does?
It's a fascinating thing. I find music itself is just fascinating because it's the only art that really doesn't go directly to our intellectual mind, our verbal mind. It appeals to our emotions. And then we can reflect on those emotions and do something with our verbal mind to it. But it's the opposite of a painting where you look at a painting and you interpret it and then you get an emotional response. But this goes right to emotions, which is why we have music in grocery stores, so you buy more groceries, on the telephone while you're waiting so you don't get irritated. We use music to lift weights with. It all energizes emotionally without us having to think about it. And that's why it's so effective in films, because it can be playing and you won't notice it's music. Your mind is on the dialogue, your mind is on the action in the film, and this music is affecting your emotions. And you don't. People will walk out of a film saying, I don't know, was there music in the film? That's
so
amazing.
You're saying that, this is interesting, that a painting requires an intellectual middleman, if you will, but that music can go directly, viscerally through the brain?
And I suppose an artist might say contemporary art, which is just abstract art, might impact you just emotionally. I won't go that far, but music is certainly something that always comes through our emotions.
I feel it in my bones.
Yeah, exactly. And we react to that music. My training as a musicologist in Berkeley, which in the modernist era, would say that we have to intellectualize music in order to enjoy music. So that's why I have music appreciation courses and learn about conjunct melodies and disjunct melodies and that sort. But I've come from film largely, but also just elsewhere, knowing in concerts how people can sit in a concert and daydream the whole time and still get something out of it. Music is to be felt, and it helps to hear it, and it helps to understand what's going on, to intellectualize it, but still it has a role just for itself.
Well, we are going to, in the next segment, start getting into specific films, and we're going to be hearing some clips from films. Very much looking forward to hearing you comment.
Thank you.
On that, I'm with Dr. Roger Hickman, and the book is Real Music, Exploring 100 Years of Film Music. I'm Lisa Bowman.